Hey everyone, today we're going to make our homemade seitan recipe. Ainsley and I have started off with 3 cups of homemade vegetable stock, and at this point she's going to be mincing up 6 cloves of garlic. Alright, now we're going to add 3 cups of wheat gluten flour.
Yeah.
You gonna help me out here, Logan?
Yep.
It's 2. I need 3 cups of wheat gluten flour.
Okay.
Then we are going to add a ½ cup of chickpea flour. Did you know that garbanzo beans can also come in flour?
Whoa.
How cool is that?
Awesome.
Chickpea flour. I'm gonna add a ½ cup of that while I make a little bit of a mess in my wife's kitchen.
Yeah.
She'll forgive me because she really likes eating the seitan too. And then we're going to add 2/3 of a cup of nutritional yeast. Now this one was a little bit tough for me to find, but it is on Amazon, like everything else.
I'm sorry, Mom, if you're watching. Okay, you are making the video, Mom, so I'm sorry that we're making a mess in your kitchen.
Alright, we're going to finish up our wet bowl here. So this is all the wet ingredients you put in one bowl, and we have all the dry ingredients in another bowl. Ainsley's added the minced garlic to the wet bowl. So now we're going to add 3 tablespoons of olive oil, or that also equals a 1/4 cup if you'd rather use that than have to measure out the 3 tablespoons.
Look at these spices.
There's the olive oil. Then we're going to add 3 tablespoons of liquid aminos.
Wait,
Again, something you can find on Amazon, or this particular one I got from Green Bean Delivery, which is another service that my family and I love. 1, 2. If you don't have liquid aminos, you can use soy sauce or Worcestershire sauce. That works just fine.
Wait, did someone say soy sauce?
And my secret ingredient.
What
This is another Amazon buy. This is hard to find as well. Gravy Master.
Whoa.
So what this is, it's a caramel coloring sauce. I use it a lot in different cooking, like soups and sauces. If you're making a homemade onion soup, it works fantastic in that. And obviously, you can also use it for gravy. It's Gravy Master after all.
It's the master of, wait, what's it?
Of gravy.
It's the master of gravy.
Master of gravy. And that gets all of our wet ingredients together, so I'm just going to whisk this up.
Just to tell you, the master gravy.
Alright, so now we're going to add our spices. So here I've got tablespoon quantity, so 2 tablespoons of kosher salt, a tablespoon of black pepper, 2 tablespoons of garlic salt or garlic powder, 2 tablespoons of onion powder, and 1 tablespoon of paprika. Get that in there. And then we're going to add in our teaspoon quantities. I have 2 teaspoons of smoked paprika, 2 teaspoons of thyme, 2 teaspoons of cumin, 1/2 of a teaspoon of cayenne pepper, and 2 teaspoons of oregano. That in there. And then we're going to mix up our dry mixture to get those seasonings spread throughout. There we go. And then it's time to bring over our liquid ingredients and start to blend this together. Just dump that whole thing in there. I'm using a fork to mix this up. I like that better than a whisk because with a whisk you start to get things stuck in between all the parts of it, and it becomes difficult because you're working this into a dough. All of that dry mixture is going to suck this up into a very spongy like dough that we're going to start to knead after we get it all incorporated here. See, it's still really dry. We're working that through there, and you'll get to a point where it's just time to dive in with your hands. Just working that flour into the rest of the dough. It seems like there's a lot of flour still in there. That's okay. You'll feel the dough's still got a lot of moisture to it, so we're just working that flour in to the moisture of the dough, and it just sucks it up just like a sponge. And you get it to a good good mix of the flour into the wet part here. We got a dough that's been put together. You can see it's kind of, not really rubbery, what would you say? Spongy. It's got some pull to it. We're gonna get it onto the cutting board. And now we're gonna knead the dough for 3 minutes. So this is where we're starting to help form that gluten. The flour and the wet mixture coming together. You should feel it nice and spongy. And we're just gonna work this for 3 minutes. You can tell when it's getting closer because you can feel it kind of pushing back on you even more. Almost like you're working with, I guess, a big piece of rubber, right?
Yeah.
Although you would think, does that mean my wheat gluten is going to be rubbery? No, not at all. Actually, it's going to be very nice and tender. We'll talk about some of the different ways that we serve this and some of the different tricks I use. You can use this stuff in a lot of different things. Sandwiches, we've used it in Asian stir fries. I put it in omelets. It's really fantastic for a lot of different applications. So once you have kneaded this for about 3 minutes, you're going to put it into a ball, like a big dough ball, just like you're making bread or pizza, and put it back in the bowl. And we're going to let it sit there for about 15 minutes, just to rest. All right, our dough is rested for 15 minutes. Back on our board here. We're going to work this for just a couple more minutes. You'll notice it kind of bounces back as you're pushing in on it. That's good. Kind of folding some layers into it. And while I'm working this over these next couple minutes, I'm also going to start forming it so that it's somewhat even across the surface, because we're going to cut this into pieces for when we cook it. And we're going to cook it in a steamer. You can boil it. I haven't tried that method. I prefer steaming it, and I have a nice little steamer, which I really can't live without. Honestly, we use this thing probably 2 or 3 times a week. All right, almost got this ready. Forming it into kind of a loaf, because it'll fit nicely into the pieces. We're gonna wrap these in aluminum foil after we cut it down. You should get about 8 pieces out of this recipe. Each piece will probably be good enough for 2 sandwiches typically. We go through a batch like this in less than a week in my house. This stuff is fantastic. All right, so we're gonna use a bread knife. I'm gonna cut it in half. And we're gonna get 4 pieces out of each side here. About this big. Put it into aluminum foil. You want to give it a little bit of room because it is a dough. It might rise a little bit when you steam it. So it's kind of a loose package here. I'm going to roll up these sides. And then that's going to go in our steamer basket for about 35 minutes. All right, so the seitan's been in the steamer for about 35 minutes. We're going to unwrap it. We've let it cool at room temperature. It still kind of cooks in that aluminum foil, so you want to let it cool down, and then it's ready to slice. So it's firm to the touch. Cut into it. Very nice, meaty looking texture. And what I like to do is slice it up thin, and I'm going to put this into a French dip that I'm actually making tonight. Look at this. You can see all those herbs, the garlic, the spices that are in there. You can eat this right now, and it's delicious. Mmm.
Is it spicy?
But what I like to do is I'll put it into a saute pan with a little bit of olive oil and let it kind of sear on both sides, and hit it with a little bit of vegetable stock because it's going to bring some moisture into it, and that's perfect for any kind of sandwich or any other application you might have. Tacos, stroganoff, doesn't matter. Perfect meat substitute. Seitan. Enjoy.
Seitan!